The first Super Majors of 2025 happened this past weekend with my Suma top number 1 question mark, and let's make big moves in New York City for 2025. Let's go over both of those tournaments because 2 Super Majors in 1 weekend is always going to be a treat, 1 in Japan, 1 in NA. Let's go over my Suma top first. After Akola just got 3rd on the Lumi rank, he's like, you know what, I want to try to be number 1 again, and wins his first Super Major of the year over Dora Migi as well as Daru, and of course some other players that we'll see in the top 32, but not easily a victory for him, but I don't think, getting 3-0 in set 1 is scary, but then the 3-0 in set 2 of Grands is very dominant. Akola's still one of the best players in the world. We know this. Dora Migi just got ranked 11th on the Lumi rank and said, hey, you know, I want to push into the top 10 this year. I want to do that, so he was able to make it all the way to winners finals over Carmelo and again over some other players in the top 32, losing to Akola, beating Daki, and then losing to Akola in set 2, but getting a win on him, which is always going to be nice. 3rd place was Rocky after just winning a major pretty recently, went on a really good run, again lost relatively early in the top 32, and then in losers beat Alice, beat Carmelo, beat Mia, and then only lost to Dora Migi in losers final, so good run by him. Mia still with a couple of quote-unquote underperformances, only getting top 8 at all these majors he's going to, especially in Japan. We're used to seeing him get 2nd and 1st, so technically like 4th and 7th are underperformances, but still had a good run overall, lost to Carmelo in winners quarters, beat someone I forget who to make it into top 8, and then beat Masa and Raru, again gatekeeping Raru from a higher placement. Raru and Carmelo did get 5th, again Carmelo got a strong win on Mia to make it into the top 8 winners, who we see here, lost to Dora Migi, lost to Daki's Kazuya there. Rocky actually saw some of that set. It was insane the amount of counterplay that we see from Daki. Like the neutral was very, very interesting. And then Raru getting 5th. Beating Mia is really hard in general. Beating Mia as an edgeguardable character is basically impossible, which is why we see Mia have that like 18-1 record with him or something like that. I don't think it's quite that bad, but it's pretty dominant. I think it's X and 1. So Raru's beat him a single time, and Mia just wins overall. And again, Raru here made it to winner semis and only lost to the 2 other best Japanese players in Akola and Mia. Again, ranked 2nd and 3rd on Lumi rank, and Raru was ranked 6th. So, you know, the 3rd strongest Japanese player at the moment. And to round out top 8, we did have Alice's Roy and Kazuya and Masa's Falco. But let's get into the top 32. In the top 32, we see Mia get his revenge on SSSR for getting the early upset last major, but then again did fall to Carmelo. Carmelo also beat Yoshidora here to make it into winners quarters. We see Dora Migi beat Ryuo in a rough matchup. I know that Min Min Diddy Kong is generally considered Diddy favor, and then also beating Darikusu in game 5, really close set there. And Darikusu actually got an upset over Oshimo, again also ranked top 10 on the Lumi rank recently. Congratulations, I believe he was 9th, so Oshimo just did fantastic overall last season, and he still had a pretty good run here. I think he lost to Alice in losers, yeah, but either way, that is still going to be perfectly fine. 13th at these type of tournaments is acceptable for sure. Akola beat Navy and Rocky to make into the top 8 winners. Rocky beat Ken, which is very impressive. Raru beating Masa, as well as level 1, and level 1 defending from Chag from Mexico. Taikei defeating him as well in losers, so Japan saying, hey, we want an only Japan top 8 from the lone invader of Chag. Again, Chag getting 17th here is still really impressive. Again, 17th at all these Japanese majors is a lot better than a bunch of good players did when they came to Golden Week, like even Spargo, I'm pretty sure got like 25th and 33rd, so, you know, it happens. Masa went on quite the run, beating Shida Yuki as well as Taikei and Darikusu to make the top 8 before falling to Mia. Mia was able to beat Ken, who was on quite the run himself after beating Yamadi and Navy. Alice beat Oshimo in losers, as well as Ryuo, as well as Goryoka, as well as level 1, so a really, really good run for him, probably the most impressive run. Him and Carmelo, I would say, were the 2 like breakout runs of this tournament. And then we have Daki over Yoshidora, so Yoshidora getting double Steved, which is unfortunate. It has been looking like after he beat, it's weird, he's beating Akola more and more, and then he's losing to the other Steves, like Daki and 33 Perrin Box. So very interesting to see that. Yoshidora had a lot of trouble and a lot of close sets with Akola, but then was able to defeat him at Supernova, as well as the recent tournament that I believe Akola got 4th at, but then is unable to beat these other Steves, so I'm not sure what's quite going on. Obviously, Steve can play a lot of different ways, so Yoshidora just gotta shore up his Steve. And of course, we do see a bunch of names that are not a surprise in this top 32. We see Shida Yuki, we see Umeki, we see Kaninabe, Karaage, we see Ryuo, who just got ranked really high on the Lumi rank, I think like 31st or 33rd or something like that. Kome, Nyon, KNB, we saw SSSR earlier, and so this kind of shook out a way that makes a lot of sense, but you know what didn't make a lot of sense for the most part? let's make big moves. It was crazy. Sorry, Luminosity makes big moves. It's let's make big moves, okay? Spargo, after being crowned #1 in the world on Lumi rank, was able to win his first Super Major of the year over Hurt, as well as Dabuz and Zomba. Not really breaking a sweat, he did not go to Game 5 a single time here. Not only did Spargo win Ultimate Singles, but he also got second in Rivals of A through 2, which is insane. I kind of want to do a video on him. First off, I want to talk about the fact, like the Lumi rank top 10 and the fact that he won, and I'm going to rant about him probably in a positive manner, but I'm probably going to do a video of going over his runs here, kind of like what I did with Leo at Let's Make Moves Miami, where it's just like I show an Ultimate set, I show a Rivals 2 set, because it is insane that he was able to win Ultimate and get second at Rivals of A through 2, beating a bunch of the best players in the world and taking Cake Assault to Game 5, which doesn't happen nowadays. Cake Assault just kind of smothers everybody, and he 3-0'd, I believe, everyone else in the bracket until Spargo in Grand Finals, which was absolutely insane. And that was over Hurt in Winners and Grand Finals, because Hurt was, of course, the lone invader here from Japan and had quite the run. I'll go over more of it, of course, in his top 128 bracket, but in top 16, he was able to beat PK Chris and Syrup, so the double Ness gauntlet, before falling to Spargo, beating Syrup yet again in losers, and then falling to Spargo in Grand Finals. Syrup, of course, had an amazing run, made it all the way to Winners Semis, beating Louis Money in Winners Quarterfinals, and then falling to Hurt, beating Tweak and Light, so the two other top North American talents, both ranked top 10 and both incredibly strong. But Syrup said, hey, I just got ranked 14th. I'm like not that far below you guys. So was able to beat both of them, which was incredibly impressive. Light went on quite the run. He did lose to Dabuz in the round before top 16. Dabuz had an amazing run. Let's go Dabuz. I'm going to go over him because I love Dabuz and I'm glad to see him back in top 8. But Light did lose to Dabuz and then had to go on quite the long losers run in this top 16, beating Onin, beating PK Chris, Wrath, and Dabuz before falling to Syrup in Game 5. So again, Light, I believe, just ranked 5th or 4th on the Lumi rank. I think it was 4th actually, because Sonics was 5th. So 4th on the Lumi rank, and then got 4th here, which is still quite the run for him, especially got a bunch of good wins of people that are probably going to do very well this season, like Dabuz, like Wrath, so not a surprise there. Tweak was able to get 5th here after losing to Dabuz in winner's bracket. Did have to beat JJ and MKLeo to make it to 5th, where unfortunately he runs into his Steve wall yet again with Syrup. I do know he has beat Syrup a couple of times, but overall, Steve is Tweak's weakest matchup, and unfortunately that is not great at top level, which is, I think, the thing keeping Tweak from being like a consistent top 5 threat. I thought honestly he was going to be like 6th or 7th on the Lumi rank. I'm surprised to see him at number 10. I feel like he did better than that, but that's the way algorithms go. Sometimes you get surprised at what's going to happen. I think the breakout of this tournament, not the breakout because we all know Dabuz is good, but Dabuz has done really, really good at this tournament. I mean, he's been not entering Smash Ultimate that much, been focusing on Street Fighter, so him getting 5th here and had a bunch of really good wins, which I'll go over when I go over the 128, but from my recollection, it was Riddles into Light, into Tweak, into lose to Spargo and Light again, but either way, those are 3 amazing wins, so I'm very happy for Dabuz to be back in this top 8 conversation. To round out 7th, we have Wrath and Leo. Leo had to go on quite the run after losing to PK Chris, I believe the round of 128, so quite early, maybe the round of 64, but in this top 16, beat Omega Game 5, really, really good set, probably one of the best sets of, I think, this entire top 16, so that was really, really good, and beating Zomba, just cementing the fact that, hey, I have your number, Zomba, like, I'm on Joker now, you cannot beat me, because Zomba hasn't beat him since the Byleth at Crown 2 or something like that. It's been quite some time, but then falling to Tweak here, Tweak evening up the set count, lifetime in Ultimate, which is kind of crazy considering how far Leo was ahead, before the pandemic, but Tweak just hasn't lost to Leo in quite some time, so that makes sense. The 2 stars of this tournament in terms of surprises were probably PK Chris and JJ. PK Chris again beating MKLeo, beating one more player, I forget who it was, I think Smirk, before falling to and beating Brujo, only falling to Hurt and then Light, which again, 2 losses you're not ashamed of at all, both amazing players. Louis Money got 9th as well. JJ had quite the run, beating a ton of amazing players, which we'll go over in the 128, but he did beat Cola here and beat several more players in the top 128. And then to round out the top 16, we have Onin, Candle, Cola, and Omega. Again, not necessarily a surprise because all those players are very strong. We saw Candle have a good run at the Throne. Of course, Onin we know is the best Steve in NA. And then Cola, not a surprise to see in top 16 after losing to Brujo, made it all the way back here. And Omega, again, probably one of the sets of the tournament here in this loser set. But just either way, had a really, really good tournament overall. So yeah, just to show, Spargo did not go to Game 5 a single time, beating Elijahman 3-0, Low 3-1, Wrath 3-1 with the Roy, because we do know that is who Spargo goes versus Sonic nowadays. We did see Zomba knock Onin into losers, Onin locking Tilde into losers. WebJP losing to Juice here. Juice, the old Philadelphia, I believe, Zero Suit and Falco, but now plays Roy. Had quite the run. I mean, I believe this is what, 17th, 33rd is pretty good at the stacked of a tournament, considering I feel like I haven't seen Juice play in quite some time. There was a little Steve chunk right here, which was unfortunate. I'm so sorry to Fawn or Gawk on my Rari, because we have Antimony, we have On, we have Just Blue, so that's a kind of crazy sequence. We have Luigi Kid actually get a couple of upsets here, made it out into winner's bracket in terms of his pool. Losing to Wrath 3-2, which again, that's pretty good considering how good Wrath is right now, and that matchup seems really, really scary. But then in loser's bracket, getting two major upsets in terms of Mutace and in terms of Tilde, so great run from him. Just didn't make it far enough to be like, oh my god, you made top 16, but still really changed the bracket up. Here we see DeBuzz's full run right over Pelka, Riddles, and Light in winner's bracket, which was kind of insane. We saw Tweak beat Candle and Mystery and Chunky Kong. Shattuck was upset by Candle here. This was Candle's big win to make that top 16, as well as a win over Riddles. So Candle again proving they are quite consistent and quite strong. Light having to beat Shattuck in top 16, which is crazy again after losing to DeBuzz here. You know Shattuck would have rather played DeBuzz, but then Shattuck had to play Light, and Light, I think, winning the last couple of times they've played. They are a very back and forth rivalry though, so that is very impressive. Shattuck had to beat Karama for 33rd, which is crazy. Karama losing to Phaethon, the Steve, who formerly known as Connor in New York, so they are a very strong. Steve was ranked #1 in upstate New York for quite some time, I believe, before they banned Steve for a bit. So yeah, very good Steve, like one of the stronger Steves in North America. That is not just a random Steve that came out of nowhere. So I just wanted to make sure that y'all know that before you go, oh my god, who's this random Steve? I can't believe that Steve is so yeah, they're fine. This was probably the strangest part of bracket because Sonics unfortunately was sick, so was unable to attend. So there's going to be quite the difference in terms of this side of bracket, because this is supposed to be Sonics up here, but it wasn't. It was Oolong and Atada here playing in the 33rd slot. And then Louis Money, of course, just doing quite well, beating Vendetta, beating J-Jaw, knocking J-Jaw into losers, who is a run we'll go over in a second, and then beating Atada to make that top 16 winners. Syrup having to beat Smock, Omega, and Jackal here for the top 16. J-Jaw beating Beast Mode Paul, which is crazy in itself. I don't know how Kirby wins that matchup, losing to Louis Money, and then in losers, beating John Numbers and Oolong, the double Wii Fit, and Jackal in that top 16, which is crazy. And then, of course, the wins that we saw in the top 16. Namely over Cola, which is kind of crazy. Omega had a really good run, as I mentioned, beating Leviathan, Beast Mode Paul, and Atada. Beast Mode Paul beating Lima, Lima just winning GSM, but unfortunately falling to Jackal and Beast Mode Paul, because welcome to Smash Ultimate, you can win a major and then get 33rd like 2 weeks later. It's crazy. This game is hard. And for the final bracket, we see Hurt did not going to Game 5 a single time. I think it's period, because he technically he lost to Spargo before Game 5, so he didn't go to Game 5 a single time, beating No Tag, MVD, and Peanut in this rough matchup. Pika Chris, again, great run, beating Leo 3-0, which is kind of crazy. Beating Smirk, beating Brujo beating Chase and Cola before falling to Pika Chris and then falling to Leo. And then Cola, after losing to Brujo, beat Azriel, beat Anarchy, and beat Peanut. Again, very strong player, very, not prone to upsets necessarily. Brujo has just been playing really well recently, and of course, Kazuya known as a really tough matchup. Grit also doing very well. Grit, the Bowser Jr. player, did beat Mars in winner's bracket, sending Mars into losers, who he actually lost to Pharaoh 3-2 as well. So not the greatest showing for Mars, unfortunately, just happens, but I do know that Mars got top 8 at Rivals of Aether 2, so hey, we will take those dubs where we can get them for sure if you're a Mars fan. But again, just overall, not, I'm going to say standard here, but Leo, yeah, after losing to Pika Chris, actually had to go on quite the run, beating Bobo Snake, Sinji's Pac-Man, MBD Snake, Chugs' Hero, and Brujo to make that top 16, where he then beat Omega and Zomba before falling to Tweak. So a really, really long losers run by Leo. Of course, we know he is capable of them. And yeah, that's going to be it for the bracket runs. I hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, social media and partner stuff is down below. Let me know who you want me to watch from these two tournaments. Again, I will be watching Spargo and I will be watching DeBuzz from this tournament. Absolutely. If you want any other ones, let me know. I'll be doing that on stream probably tonight at 6 p.m. If you want to join, I'll be going over a couple of their sets. And of course, let me know who you want me to see from the Maisuma Top series. Again, I can go over those runs as well, so just let me know in the comments. And while you're done, don't forget to subscribe. I would appreciate it. As always, social media and partner stuff is down below, which I already said. I'll see you all next time. Peace.